right. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are joining us. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of this community and for listening or for watching or for reading our newsletters, podcasts. It is really a true pleasure for us to bring this series that we start today. Thank you so much, Mirnaly, for being here, for accepting, and then for being the first one on talking on these 2 months of interviews with brilliant and very successful women that work in STEAM, and to show uh, everyone there out there that we also can do it, and then we do it really well, and yeah, anything in between. So let me, without any further ado, introduce Mirnaly. So Dr. Mirnaly Saenz de Miera is a research engineer and scientist whose experience includes materials performance, degradation, and protection in a wide range of industries, such as the oil and gas, aerospace, nuclear, automotive, and marine. She is currently working as a public servant for Natural Resources Canada, assisting the Canadian Coast Guard for material selection, failure investigation, and corrosion awareness in its mitigation. Dr. Saenz de Miera earned her PhD in corrosion and protection from the University of Manchester, England, and her materials engineering with mention in metallurgy at the Universidad Simón Bolívar in Venezuela. As an advocate in the fields of materials and corrosion, Mirnaly participates as one of the executive directors for the ASME Ontario chapter, ASME Materials Camp, Teachers and NACE Foundation of Canada. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you're doing super great today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here to talk a little bit more about women in science and what we do as a research engineers in Natural Resources Canada.
Excellent. Perfect. So let's start with the question. The first one that we have here is, tell us, how did you end up in STEAM and research and development careers?
Well, that comes from a very young age, being curious. I was always curious of how things work and how things are made of, since when you're a child, maybe textures and things that were very fascinating for me. I used to always build sandcastles and play with mud and then build things with wood. And so I always was curious. I loved to do experiments when I was a child as well. I think my first experiment was to mix the vinegar with bicarbonate, and that was like, oh my God, what is this? So I was really curious, and then also I liked when I was already in high school, I was kind of good at mathematics, and I loved the science. Biology, chemistry, physics. And so for me, it was kind of natural to just choose engineering. When I started the first year of engineering, then it was a little bit more difficult for me to choose which engineering to do. I loved them all, and I remember every month I would change which engineer I was going to do. I remember being in the beach in Venezuela and my mobile phone, everything got wet with seawater, and I'm like opening everything to wash it and looking at the electronic board, and I'm like, wow, yes, maybe I could be an electronic engineer, and so on. And then one day I was talking with a friend. Actually, I didn't know that I was the casting laboratory professor. I didn't know. And she's like, I was like, oh, I don't know which engineering. And she's like, well, what about materials engineering? And I'm like, yeah, why not? Yes, everything. that surround us is materials. I'm like, wow, yes, it's true. And I didn't know. And then I was hooked with materials engineering, and that's how I ended up in materials engineering. And then metallurgy, because like I was saying before, in Venezuela, we have several options. You can be a materials engineering with a minor in metallurgy, a minor in ceramic, polymer, and metal mechanic. And I chose metallurgy because I was fascinated when we did a visit to the Seador, one of the steel making industry back in Venezuela, and also Alcasa, the aluminium producer in Venezuela. That I don't know what was it, but I loved the I don't know how you call it, the big ladle where you mix the metals and then you pour it and you do your beams and your slabs. That was fascinating. And R&D is just that. It's just that curiosity that I always have in me. How can we improve things? Can we create new materials? And yeah, I'm still in there. Yeah, that's how I end up. It's just all about being curious about materials, loving science and how things work.
It's such an inspiring, and then the words come out of your mouth and you sound so passionate about it. It's really, really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, it's something that even when I was doing PhD and as a postdoc, I will always tell the outreach group team, like, can I go and go to the high schools and show them why we are so important?
Mm-hmm.
And it was always nice to see those big guys, like, wow, like showing them the different metals and which is lighter, which is not, and about the degradation, the production, extraction of metals, and it's been a passion for me. And now that I'm part of the board of directors for the ASM teachers camp, that's also fascinating to give the tools to teachers to how they are going to teach materials science and engineering and science in general. But yeah.
That is really, really awesome. Later on, perhaps you can share with me the links where some maybe some teachers want to find out more about it, and then we can share them.
Yes,
we can share them in the video below, and the links. And
yes, excellent.
Super, awesome, perfect. So tell me, what does a materials research engineer working at Canmet Materials day-to-day look like? Like, what is your day-to-day look like?
Okay, before I start what I do the day-to-day, I want to first talk about, because there is a lot in LinkedIn, there is a lot of people that contact me inquiring about NRC. And I just want, before talking about research engineering in NRCan, I want to see that I want to tell a little bit about the difference between NRCan and NRC. Now, I work for Natural Resources Canada. NRCan is the department of the government of Canada that is responsible for natural resources, energy, minerals, and metals, and also forest, earth sciences, mapping, so on. Now, NRC stands for National Research Council, and this is an agency of the government of Canada, and they are dedicated to science and R&D. Actually, it's one of the largest federal research and development organizations. Now, in Natural Resources Canada, we also have several research centers. We've got the Canmet Explosive. We have 2 Canmet Energy Labs, one in Ottawa, one in Alberta. We've got the Forestry Research Center. And then we have Canmet materials. And Canmet materials, we are here in Hamilton, Ontario. We are the largest research center dedicated to fabricating, processing, and evaluating materials, and especially metals. And of course, we do this research and development, and we find solutions for the Canadian industry for the energy, transportation, and metal manufacturing. Now, as a research engineer in Canmet materials, it really depends on what you are hired for. Okay, so we have a research engineer, for example, that designs cells and experimental procedures, and he does the analysis for corrosion encounter in the nuclear waste. So we have a consortium of several countries and Canada, and we are one of the participating labs to find solutions to the nuclear waste. And so the research engineer, in this case, design the cells and build them and do the analysis. We also have research engineers that they design, procure, and oversee the constructions of one-of-a-kind equipment for our own research projects. And then, of course, they oversee all the mechanical and material testing. Mechanical and material testing, yeah. There are also research engineers that we've got that develop softwares, because we've got certain equipment that give us the data, but it's not very useful data. So like, for example, we've got a laser profilometer and we have differences in topography. But we want that data to correlate with different corrosion rates of the different areas. So we've got this research engineer that has created a software to do this equivalent data, correlation of the data. Now, I am a research engineer that I was hired because Canmet materials, and from now I'm going to call it CMAT, it's quicker. CMAT have a memorandum of understanding with the Canadian Coast Guard. So the Canadian Coast Guard have access in a timely manner, kind of quick like now, access to experts in corrosion. We've got access to corrosion scientists, the analytical equipment like SEM, TEM, services such as the welding, the fabrication, and the casting, but they didn't have a materials engineer, and that's where I come along. They needed a materials engineer because they needed to. So with the corrosion scientists, they could see what happened with that interface between the harsh environment and the metal, but they needed someone also with the knowledge of the metal itself and how it interacts that surface with the harsh environment. And that's where I come along, and that's how we complement each other, the corrosion scientists with the materials engineer. And so as a research engineer, I assist the Canadian Coast Guard with the material selection. With any failure investigation that they have, sometimes they have problems of general corrosion, or they have problems with crevice corrosion, pitting, things that we as a corrosionist, we know, but they might not necessarily know and where to look for these problems. And so we teach them. So I actually prepare a course to teach them about the basics of corrosion and its mitigation. I have also collaborated to add standards and procedures in there in some of the documents for them to be to guide themselves when they are doing repairs, vessel extension, life extensions. And we are also, I'm also conducting a research about, in this moment, we are doing actually two research. One is finishing, is about the implementation of laser ablation as a substitute to surface preparation, mechanical abrasion to prepare the surfaces prior to painting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm also conducting the research about optimizing the weldment corrosion performance of the existing and future icebreakers. So they have a lot of problem with welding, especially in that area where the ice abrade the paint, and so they have terrible corrosion. So yeah, so that's what we do. So every day I might have an email saying, oh, we've got a problem, we've got this pipe that is leaking. And so I ask them, they send me pictures, and we can solve the problem there and then. Sometimes we've got a tank that is corroding terribly. What happened? So I tell them to gather some samples, send it to me. We send it to the lab, and we do the SCM, EDX, and these techniques to give them, well, this is what's going on, and now this is our recommendation. Like I said, this research is more long term, so I will, I oversee all these experiments, the immersion testing, the characterization of the material, and then once or twice per month, I teach the 2-day course of corrosion to all the chief engineers, managers in the Canadian Coast Guard, just to raise the level of awareness and empower them to when they commission the vessels, the ships, and when they send it to repair in the shipyard, they are more aware of or catch mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, so but it's good to empower them to catch these small mistakes and say, oh no, let's use these gaskets. It's better for isolating the similar materials, for example, instead of that gasket. So yeah,
it's very interesting. It's a cultural change, actually, when you start doing those awareness trainings and then involving other people that is not only the technical people, and it does really make a difference. So I'm very glad to hear.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Okay, so the next question is, from all of the projects, all of them, research and development or others that you have worked with, is there one that you have a special remembrance about, and why?
Well, every research project, it's been fun. So I don't like to.
I don't have favorites, you will say.
I don't have favorites. It's like materials. Talking about materials, I've got friends that they are materials engineer. They love steel. I'm like, but what about aluminium? What about copper and nickel? Oh, steel. Anyway, I don't like to single out anyone. The one that impressed me the most, it was the nuclear. I was a postdoc in Manchester University for a project about developing or designing a new modular reactor based on the AGR's advanced gas cooled reactors in England. And I was excited. We were going to do experimental thermal oxidation, radiolytic. That was the first one, like, whoa, what is that? Radiolytic oxidation of nuclear graphite. It was fascinating. And so here I am designing the experimental setup to get my samples. And I was excited that we were going to Amsterdam, TU Delft, to the material test reactors. And I was going to put my capsules with the CO2 and the nuclear graphite. I was going to and then they told me, okay, come back in 1 year. I'm like, what? Yes, to have your first point in your graph. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I was used to doing research in the oil industry back in Venezuela, where every day I would have my data. I will have a graph in one day. I will know my material performance. Then when I did my PhD, it was surface treatments. I would do my surface treatment, anodizing, etching, everything. And then it will take a little bit while because I will need to do the cross sections and see my oxides and see what was going on. But within a week, I could have results. And when I came to the nuclear, I'm like, oh, I need to wait for a year and then characterize my material for one set of conditions. I'm like, and that's why in nuclear they do a lot of also simulations, but that was very shocking for me. Then, well, I needed to leave England and move to Canada. So they are still there trying to design the small modular reactor. No based on the AGRs.
Right, I bet the probe is still there.
But I do like every single. I really don't have. I mean that one because you need a lot of patience to have data and enough data to publish something. But in all of them, I've learned so much. And the latest was one with the Canadian Coast Guard. It was a beautiful problem because it was like ESAT here, but in that. So, I mean, anyway, it was I needed to have the full system diagram, technical diagram, because they have a cavitation problem. But the problem was because there were corrosion upstream and downstream, and then it was a beautiful failure investigation to do. And I learned a lot about pumps and procuring the right pump. But anyway, yeah, I think I will vote for the nuclear.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. So now that we have spoken about and understood a little bit better how is this whole kind of different departments within the Canadian government, and it is really, I want to pick your brain on this one. Why do you think it is important to have government entities supporting research and development projects, especially the ones related to materials?
Well, the government needs to support the R&D, and is doing it. In all our labs, we are supporting R&D, and in like our mandate in Canmet Materials, our mandate is really driven by the needs of our society, but with respect natural resources and energy. And one of our drivers is for clean energy. For example, we are researching on new materials for batteries and supercapacitors for electrical vehicles, because we want to reduce our CO2 to net zero by 2050. We are also focused on developing hydrogen coating standards, and we are testing coatings and things. We are collaborating with the industry that are also developing coatings to retrofit our existing infrastructure to not spend millions of dollars to build an infrastructure to. I'm sorry, I've got everybody. I've got here my baby. It's a Conora, so if you see something going, that's my bird. Anyway, so we don't want to spend and use money to build another infrastructure to transmit hydrogen in the pipeline, use hydrogen. So we are testing coatings that are going to be able to be applied in our already existing pipelines to be able to transport the hydrogen. But also we are testing the existing materials to be able to predict if hydrogen will damage our infrastructure. So yes, the government is actively helping the industry, helping the universities to also keep pace with technological advances in other countries. For example, the government has been have awarded a grant to ArcelorMittal Defasco to replace the coal-fed coke ovens, blast furnaces with new low-emission technology. But of course, we are, as a government lab, we are also training high qualified personnel to work in this industry as well. So we also collaborating with universities to bring students to our lab and teach them and allow them to use our equipment and to produce highly standard results to be used and advancing technology. So it's very important. Canada does, the government of Canada does support all these advances, and we have seen it with all the grants given to universities, to industry, and to us in the labs, with the government labs. So
that is so encouraging to hear, and it's good. Definitely, the gap needs to be bridged between institutions and industry and government and regulators and students and everyone. So the more that there is awareness, the better equipped we'll have or will be to take decisions.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have arrangements with universities where we bring students and they do courses with us about heat treatments and how to deal with materials, how to process them, and to better their education. And sometimes just being there, looking at how things work, is so enriching for them. So yeah, I've seen how we collaborate with universities, industry. At the moment, we are all writing proposals to work with the industry and try to collaborate and find solutions to all these problems with the energy, the CO2, and hydrogen and electrical vehicles. So, yeah,
Excellent.
Really nice.
That's really cool. Perfect. So, along your career, have you had any mentors or guides, or who's helped you along the way? Is there someone that perhaps you remember that had said something at some point and you were like, oh, yeah, or?
Yeah, I think along my career, like when I was undergrad, and I was doing my work for the oil, gas, and industry, I was in a government funded laboratory as well. That's why I like that I'm here as well, because it just feels great to help the community and society. So I was in Venezuela. I was in the government funded laboratory, and it was nice to have my both supervisor, the industrial supervisor, and my university supervisor to help to teach me, and I remember when I went to do my PhD, I needed a letter of recommendation, and the professor at Manchester University was impressed by how beautiful that letter from my university supervisor talk about me. So that was really nice. I felt very supportive, but of course I left the country, so we kind of kept in touch, but not, then it's like I went to another world, and then I found my mentor. That was my supervisor, one of my supervisors for my PhD. And again, I felt so supportive, because it was not only to do the work, but is is to open my mind and understand the bigger picture, because I tend to be very in detail and I lose the bigger picture. And then, of course, during my PhD, I found my other half, my partner, and we are in the same field. And I think he has been there supporting me all along. And sometimes when even I had doubt about myself, because, you know, it has been difficult to be in a field that is, the majority is kind of men. He's been there supporting all along, and knowing that I can do it, you know. So I would say that he is kind of my mentor. And we talk about the same language. So having another person that is not my partner as a mentor throughout, I haven't been so lucky. I've known people that they started with their undergrad and, you know, all their life, even in businesses, you know, like, oh, you know, not only in the knowledge in the field, but also like in other aspects in life. So yeah, I think I have like a small mentor for everything, and then my biggest mentor is my partner, my husband.
That's so beautiful. It's a really nice story.
We complement each other. Yes.
That's beautiful. Congratulations. Perfect. So that brings me to the question that nobody likes. What will you say to the younger version of yourself 15 years ago? What would you say to
Mirnaly?
Yeah, 15 years ago.
Let me see, 15 years old when I was, how old was I? I think I would tell to Mirnaly 15 years ago, breathe. Breathe. Everything will be fine. Don't get stressed. Don't, it's not worth it. Don't give up. I mean, I never give up. That's why I am where I am. But I think I could have saved more gray hair if I trust more in myself. Yeah, I said. I mean, I think I worry too much. I think I would say keep doing what you're doing. This is it. This is what you love, and this is because there was always doubts like, oh, what am I doing? But like I said, since a small age, I loved science and research and materials. And 15 years ago, it was, I think, the time where I wanted to have a family, and it meant a lot of sacrifices. Yeah. And I would tell myself, just don't worry, just do what you have to do. Everything will be fine. Those tears and those worriness, just don't waste those tears. If you breathe and you're confident that everything will be fine, it will. Everything comes at the right time, at the right place. Don't rush. Just do the best of yourself, and everything will be fine. I would just calm myself a little bit more 15 years ago. Now I'm like very relaxed, because otherwise I won't last until 60 years. Too much.
Yeah, breathing is really important, and it's interesting because I also learned the lesson very old in my life that breathing is such a
Yeah.
precious gift that we don't use so often.
Do yoga, do more breathing exercises,
Mhm,
meditate, just calm your mind. Don't
mhm.
let the noise distract
That's a really good message. You touched along the lines of starting a family and then being that moment that was a little bit difficult and decisions. And how was that for you?
you. Well, so I'm like, okay, the clock is ticking. Yeah, I mean, I'm 30. I want a family. I really want a family. And so I decided, okay, let's just try for a family. And that's the thing now. I needed to interrupt my career to have my kids. And the problem was that at the time that I was able to start my family, we were moving to Canada. So we were not only changing country, but I was pregnant. So I came to this country already pregnant, which meant that I couldn't find any job or apply for any job. And it was difficult because then I didn't want to have only one. I didn't want my only one to be alone in this world. So I wanted the second one. And that was a kind of a long process. And I was very happy. I mean, and there were a lot of factors like daycare here is really expensive. And I didn't want my kid to grow up with someone that was not the mother. As a researcher and curious person, I was finding what was the best for the baby. And I was lucky. Not everybody has the luck to stay at home because of financial situation. We were okay. So I could stay at home and look after my two kids. Of course, when my youngest, my second one, was turning 5 years old, she was going to JK. I'm like, okay, I do need to do something with my life. I need my brain to work again. I need the science. I need knowledge. Because I already had a lot of knowledge about babies.
I bet.
And, I was already a psychologist, driver, you name it, cooker, anyway, housekeeper. I'm like, that call was like, I need this for me because they will grow and then, leave you.
Off
And
they
what
go.
about you? What about you as a professional? And so it took a while. It took a long time because, of course, everybody see your resume and you have a 7-year gap. And I remember my mom like, oh my God, I wanted to go back and I couldn't, never. And I was so stressed because I'm like, no one is calling me for interviews. I don't have the Canadian experience that they always ask. I actually did a little so I volunteer at the school with my kids when they started school about science, simple machines. It was really fun to have these kids doing stuff with Lego. And then I also did some mad science, went to school again to show about science. But it was not what I wanted. I wanted research. I wanted to do what I was doing before having kids. And nothing. I was just like, oh my God. And I remember that I was so desperate that I remember sending an email to one of the professors at McMaster University. I'm like, and I pour my heart into that email. And I said, all my life, I told all my life, like, as a researcher, I found that the kids need their mother, but now I'm ready to go back, and this is my experience, and I kind of gave my resume in that email, and he was really kind. He called me back like I went the day after, and I told him all my experience, all the research that I did onto until 1 year after my PhD. So I did my PhD, then I did a year of postdoc with a nuclear. And he was very interested. And I was lucky because at that time, there was another professor that needed someone to do some research for the industry. And so I started as a part-time. So part-time, and of course they started to see how I worked, and then they offered me to be full-time. So that was, for me, was like, it was so good, because I think I managed to, I showed them that I was worth it and I could do my job, even though I had a big gap. So I was very grateful for those 2 years as a postdoc. I put my hands into as many projects as I could, and I learned so much. And I need to have several tasks, because my way to relax from one task is to go to another one. And the multitasking, I love that. I think I blame that on when I did my undergrad, the system was to be on top of things all the time. And yeah, I was lucky. I started as a postdoc doing research for the industry for 2 years in my master's university. And then this opportunity came along to work across the road, because actually physically I was working in this building for my master university, and the Canmet laboratories are across the road. Wow. So I applied, and here I am, being a materials engineer for the Canadian Coast Guard. Sometimes I do help other projects, but I'm the main, not the project leader, but I am managing the MOU for the Canadian Coast Guard.
That's so inspiring, and that actually ties into the next question, which is, do you have any message for the audience, for the younger generation, if they want to start a career in? And I will just add in there, what is that courage, and what is that kept you with your north, and then that you always wanted, you knew where to go, and then I'm hearing you, and then everything that I hear is just so much perseverance and
Yes.
resilience. And so what is this message like for the younger generations?
For the younger generations, anyone really, is you have to work hard for yourself. You have to feel that you are doing your best. You have to do your best. Doing your best not necessarily will take you where you want there and then, but certainly will help you to get eventually where you want. I always said that in life you have a toolbox. Try to fill that toolbox with as much things you can. I mean, like in my case, I born in Venezuela. In my toolbox, I wanted to have English language. I wanted to have. I did a lot of social interaction. Like I was an event coordinator. I had the ability to deal with people. If you have the opportunity to work in retail, I did that during my PhD. Do it, because that's a very important skill, to be able to talk to all levels of skill people. Respect everyone. All of them can give you something new to learn. Be humble. You sometimes learn more from the technician that has been there doing experiments all the time than someone that, you know, might do the design for, you know. Yeah, fill that toolbox. Project management. If you don't have, I mean, I would love to have the time to do the coding. Yeah. Do what you love. Do hobbies as well. Breathe. Everything has the right time, okay? COVID happened. Well, I hope you use that time wisely, and if you didn't have any work, you did some of your hobbies. And be perseverant. If I don't know, in my case, materials engineer was my passion, is my passion. So I kept at it. I keep looking for jobs. I keep applying for them. And well, okay, I got a gig of my science. It's still in science. I also did work again in retail because I wanted to do something. But be perseverant. Talk, communicate. Don't be afraid of asking. I'm not afraid of asking, how do you do this? Can I do that? I know that sometimes it's difficult for introverts. I sometimes categorize myself in between. Sometimes I'm an introvert, sometimes an extrovert. I know that for introverts it's more difficult to approach people out and talk. Send an email. Maybe it's best to send out, like I did. I sent an email to this professor and ask. I just knocked the door. Just knock doors. You never know which door will open. Don't give up because, oh my God, I have a 7-year gap in resume. What am I going to do now? Why? You know, you have to be confident that you can do the work that you did, that you have to keep up with the technology. Well, there is a lot. I mean, we've got Google now. Just verify the source stuff. Not everything that you read is true. But yeah, that would be my advice to the younger generation. Just try to fill that toolbox with the skills, social, technical, knowledge, general culture, geography. I mean, you don't know. You might be talking to your future employee, and you, by talking about history, geography, you might, this person, you will say, this person is, I like it. And you didn't need to talk about, I don't know, the grain growth or the oxide growth or the passivation of a stainless, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's like we are humans before anything else. And
try
then
to
we
connect.
need the connection. Exactly the word I was about to say, the connection. And
connection is so important. We are humans. We are not just one number. I remember from a school to university, oh, you are going to be one more number at university. I did feel like one number because it was huge. But still, I felt the connection with people, you know. And that's how we drive things.
Definitely. So on a final note, then, we spoke about what we wanted to tell yourself, the younger version of yourself, the younger generation. Any special message for women now that we are in that particular series?
Yeah, I think I want women to be more confident. We can do it. I think my advantage of dealing with this industry that is really man-dominated, is still man-dominated. I still cannot believe that it's still man-dominated. But and I say that because when I was back in Venezuela, the engineering faculty, I felt like it was kind of 50-50, you know. But then suddenly you go to the industry And you're like, where are the women? Why I feel so lonely? And I think one of the things is because of that. We want to start a family, and then it's difficult for us to go back. And then, of course, we just like, oh, no, I can't. No, you can. You can. You can go back. And like I said, it was easy for me because I grew up surrounded by men, and I knew how they were. I knew how boys were, talking and being very confident. And you're like, really? There were things like, I think you are exaggerating, or and so I felt kind of comfortable or confident to deal with men. Though sometimes I have to say that at the beginning when I went back, I remember being a little bit intimidated because sometimes the posture and the body language is like, okay. In those cases, again, breathe, calm, you know your things, okay? If you don't know anything at the moment, you're just like, you know what, I need to go back to you. I don't know, out of the top of my head. Get the posture right. Let's just talk and don't get intimidated. I don't see people by gender, I just see people by people. And that's the other thing. It's like when you give presentation and they teach you just try to present and feel that and see that everybody's naked. I've never done it, but that's the advice. I've never done it. I just see, same with when you're in a meeting, don't see them like a gender. Just see them as people. You're another person. The thing about women and men and whatever is just not relevant to the work. So women, we need more women in industry, in STEM and in materials. And I have a lovely group from McMaster and from Life that they are wonderful and they are strong, like still they are softy but strong. You know what I mean? It's
I absolutely get what you're saying. Yeah.
We are resilient. We have to be perseverant. And if one day we are down because it didn't work what we wanted, let's just, get up again.
Check it off and breathe and keep on going.
Check it off and breathe. Let's just keep at it. Don't give up. That's what I said to the girls. Don't get intimidated. Boys are boys. Remember in your childhood that boys are boys. I see that a lot with my girl. I have a boy and a girl. And I can see the difference. It's amazing. So my girl, she's growing up also surrounded by boys. And it's just, you're not going to intimidate me.
That's beautiful. It's good to hear, and it's good that you're empowering.
Yeah, and I seriously don't see it by gender. I see it by people. They are lovely men. They are lovely women, but I don't see them by the gender. I just see it by the person. They are, not very nice. Sometimes you feel that you are kind of competing with other women. Like, no. We're here to help.
Oh, absolutely. And then doing these kinds of things, it raises awareness on everything that you have just said. Like this interview came out into life because I asked you and because you were kind enough to ask me questions back. And then here we are. And the more that we help each other, the stronger, we definitely can do it. But if we have someone that has already gone that path and we can get a hold and then ask a question, let's do it, because that's the meaning of sharing and then extending the ladder, like they said.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason, really, and everything will come to your way if you are ready, and it will come at the right time. I remember that the job that I applied for, I asked my friends, apply. You apply. No, this job before you. No. I think the right person will get the job. And a lot of us apply. I'm not afraid to, there's sometimes people like, there is a job, that tell anyone. No. I think things will get to you at the right time. And if you didn't get it, something better will come, just don't give up. You never know.
Exactly.
I never knew that I was going to be here. It was my dream.
Well, thank you so much, Mirnaly.
My
It has
pleasure.
been super, super nice time. The time flew by.
Yes.
And
I've got a meeting now.
right, it was really, really nice. Thank you very much, and thank you to your organization for allowing this to happen. I know it's sometimes we have to.
Yeah, it's a great feeling to be as a public servant and help, really. And we are helping the society to come with better materials, technology, and tackle the challenges that we've go ahead with this climate change. So
that's a beautiful closeout.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for all of you that has been here. Take care and all the best over there.
Thank you so much. Okay. And
Bye.
See you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.